Welcome to Prime Life. We call it Retirement 2.0. Leave each episode with tips and new ideas to help you navigate retirement in our new age. It's your time. Make it count.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not intended as medical, investment, or financial advice. We do not sponsor or endorse any of the individuals, companies, products, or services featured on this podcast. Any statements or opinions expressed are of the individual who makes them. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Prime Life Podcast. I'm Mary Crean, and I'm flying solo today. But that's okay, because I have an amazing guest. We've had him on before, so welcome back. We're going to have Ron Long. He's worked in the financial industry for over 15 years to help combat elder financial abuse. With Stevens and Lee Law Firm, he assists small and medium-sized firms adopt policies and practices that will help their clients avoid becoming victims. This is such an important topic. Ron, welcome back to the Prime Life Podcast. For those individuals who may not remember when you were on before, can you talk a little bit about yourself and get us up to speed as to what you're up to these days?
Sure. Thanks, Mary, for having me back. And talking a little bit about myself probably just zeroes in on a career of helping investors. I started out in financial services with the Securities and Exchange Commission, helping the chairman and others fight securities fraud, frauds that were victimizing folks in the late 80s and 90s. And then I started in private practice and pretty quickly saw that this challenge of elder financial abuse, things that many of our financial advisors were not trained on in the past, just started to grow more and more. A lot of it because we did a lot of the things right. We worked hard, saved money, and around 2010, a bunch of us started turning 65 every day. And that is continuing right up until about 2030, 2031. So a lot of folks out there who are now having a lot of money. And it was during that work, learning about the frauds that were out there, learning about adult protective services who are there to help folks, learning about what regulators can do, what the industry itself could do. All of that is the work that I've done over the past decade or longer, 15 years or so, and trying to do more of that work now. When I was working for the big financial firm, it was easy for us to put 15 folks on a team and help our clients prevent the frauds that were out there. Today, I'm trying to do for smaller and medium-sized firms who can't afford to hire that many people or literally any person full-time. So our proposal is that they don't hire folks full-time, they hire us, and we will provide those services on an as-needed basis. And we think that can make a difference. There are lots of other things we'll talk about here, but we need all of us working together to help combat this fraud.
Well, I love that you're helping small to medium-sized businesses because certainly they need your help. And as you indicated, perhaps they can't afford to have people on full-time or multiple people. But what's curious to me, and I'm sure to our listeners, is why is this financial abuse growing among the elderly population?
Well, it kind of goes back to Willie Sutton. Why did he rob banks? Because that's where the money is. And we've had bad guys forever, but they have quickly figured out that an easy way to go and get money and with less options, you don't have to put on a mask, you don't have to take a gun, you have to walk in physically. The money is there with these older folks who've done all the right things. Not that younger people don't get scammed, but the older folks simply have more money to lose, and the bad guys realize that. So we have that challenge, and again, it's a very good thing that we've all become more digital, more adept at working the internet, but that also has literally opened you up to worldwide opportunities to be contacted by the fraudsters that are out there. So someone in a foreign country, I always get into trouble when I name the specific countries, but there are countries where they literally have full office rows and cubicles of folks whose only job is to dial for dollars or click for dollars, reaching out to folks in the U.S. and other countries.
I have to say, I saw a movie recently. I think it was The Beekeeper. And Say No More. And it was, it's a movie, but, right, we know that a lot of times movies are based on loosely or tightly on what's really going on. And I saw you shake your head at that. So, it's just, that was mind blowing,
Yeah.
For many different reasons.
And I will say the Beekeeper is very accurate at the outset on how the frauds and how the scams happen. We actually, and I shouldn't be the one endorsing murder, pillage, and killing the
No,
people
of
doing
course not.
it, but
Right.
that take the metaphor of we need to attack the source. That is true, and the
Yeah.
way we go about it has to improve. We just haven't made the dent in
Mhm.
it that Mr. Statham did in the movie.
Yes, and I think that was a good disclaimer. Which scams are most prevalent? Are there garden variety? Are there a few that you're seeing that you have seen in your career really shift into high gear?
Yeah, the ones that I'll go over, and again, another disclaimer, these bad guys are changing scams at every minute. But the three I'll go over are essentially the false or fake federal official scam. This is someone who reaches out to you to say your account has been compromised or your account has appeared on a criminal activity near the border. You need to take all of your dollars out of the physical bank, send it to this official federal locker where they will keep your money safe. And what's really evil about this scam, your bank is in on it. You can't tell them why you're doing it. They will ask you questions. You need to lie to the bank because they're bad guys as well. So get your money out of the evil bank, and then we can safekeep it because we're the federal government. The other one is the tech support scam, much like was in the Beekeeper. The pop-up hits your screen. You seems to have frozen your screen or whatever. You click on the link, and from there, bad things happen. Essentially, many times you've given full access to your screen, your passwords, and these folks go in and steal your money. So that's the second one. And then the romance scam, which has been around in different forms, probably back in Julius Caesar's time. But we have it now on steroids. For one, we have a lot of folks who are lonely or looking to meet folks.
Mhm.
The internet brings new people into your life,
Mhm.
and you'll see the Sunday newspapers with all the weddings and engagements. And almost today, almost everywhere, it's they met online. So
Mhm.
you think love is just one click away for you as well. And again, these folks get in, they're very good, and they essentially get you to believe them more than you will believe your family, your bank, your financial professional. So those
Yeah.
three are, I think, wreaking havoc, particularly on the elder groups that we focus.
Mhm. Those are great examples. So, Ron, what are particular, perhaps, traits and activities that lead someone to become a victim?
Yeah, there's been a lot of good studies out there lately that, and I'll highlight a couple of the things that they're finding that's in common. One is, I mentioned it earlier, but loneliness. These are folks, and again, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of us who want to be alone, but lonely is in addition to, or another part of it. And loneliness means you're isolated, you're not in contact with others where you can pick up a phone and say, someone just approached me with this concept. What do you think? So, loneliness is one key factor. The other thing that has seemed to be common in all of the, or a number of the cases, is that you are in or just out of a crisis. Many times, recent death in the family, divorce, serious illness, so that where you may have normally had your guard up, may have normally been on alert, when this scammer starts, and says there's urgency, you must move your money, because you're in crisis mode, you may not be all there immediately to take that second or third step or minute to say, well, wait a minute, could this possibly be true? Well, why is this happening? So we see that happen. And then the other thing is, many times, the third factor is you actually do many times have a financial issue or need. And this normally isn't the romance scam, but sometimes it is. But you see some of the other scams saying the great opportunity, money's coming in, you only need to put some little bit of money up front to get thousands of times more money back. So those three, and there are other factors, but those three have seemed to be at the top of the list of what makes folks vulnerable to many of these scams.
Yeah, and like the saying goes, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And I loved your example that you gave about, you put X amount of money in and you're going to get way more back somehow miraculously. And we know that's obviously not possible. What do you think it will take to end this type of crime? And as a consumer, there are a lot of products. And I think the last time we had you on, we talked a little bit about that, all the different products out there. And I know that you work with business, but there's some connection here. And yet crime is growing. So what do you think it's really going to take to help? Because I don't think we're ever going to get rid of it 100% completely, but at least to make some headway in your opinion, Ron.
Yes, and I will tell you, my goal is to get rid of it completely. So it's that classic, if you want to hit the moon, you have to aim for the stars. But it does take all of us, and we haven't done that in this country in a coordinated fashion. I need the internet companies, when people are spoofing the banks or the name of a financial institution, that is visible to those companies, and we should have that stopped in its tracks. That shouldn't happen. Our telecom folks, when they do the fake phone number that looks like it's from the IRS or from the FBI, again, visible to the telecom company, we need to have that stopped. There are a couple of initiatives by some of the big merchants whose names are being used, and I like that approach where they're saying, let's work together with others so that we can get in and quit having people use our name in vain to get a scam launched or underway. So we see more of that. But we also need things like what you saw in The Beekeeper. This is a crime that's been hidden. We don't see it much on TV. I need it to be on Law and Order. I need it to be on CSI. We need movies. We need public service announcements that focus in on certain parts of it. So we need that as well. We need the financial institutions to look at what they can do more. I mentioned us working with the smaller and medium size. So all of the financial institutions can do a little more. And then I'm looking at us, the audience, the investors. We need to start doing things a little more self-help. And that this is not a blame the victim, but if we have more tools, if we took more steps, we just make it less likely we'll be the victim. Sad to say we'll make them look for someone else, but at this point, if every one of us made them look for someone else, the opportunities for the bad guys would dwindle tremendously.
Yeah, I love your mindset. Yes, we want to eradicate it 100% versus, 80%. And I do think it's possible. And I know you mentioned a lot of partners and individuals and industry that perhaps need to work together, maybe a little bit differently or, in conjunction. Should banks and financial institutions reimburse victims for this type of fraud?
And we'll get that answer after a brief word from our commercial sponsors.
NASA is always working harder to be your carrier of choice. We offer insurance products that can help you meet your retirement goals, such as protecting your savings, securing lifetime income, or paying for healthcare costs. We're dedicated to providing best-in-class service and are keeping things simple, and we'll have your back. We have around 400,000 policyholders and contract holders and have been doing this for a long time, 170 years, but we remain humble enough to always try to improve. For more information, visit nfg.com. Nassau insurance products are issued by Nassau Life and Annuity Company of Hartford, Connecticut, Nassau Life Insurance Company, East Greenbush, New York, or Nassau Life Insurance Company of Kansas, Overland Park, Kansas. Subsidiaries of Nassau Financial Group. Products are not available in all areas. Policyholder counts are for all Nassau companies as of September 30th, 2022, and are subject to change.
And that's a very touchy issue, and I'll be very direct and may not get friends in the financial institutions. But if a person walks in and says, I need to take 50,000 out to give it to the Nigerian prince because he says he's going to move $3 million out of his country and I'll get a big cut of that $3 million. Yes, that bank probably should be responsible. But many times, a lot of these scams involve convincing the victim that the bank is evil, that you must lie to the bank, that you don't ever give the true story. It just seems in those circumstances, it is not a good thing to have banks simply reimburse losses because the victim was defrauded or scammed. We have to come up with another system. And again, banks should be responsible if your online account is hacked through the bank and criminals go in and steal your money. That should be a responsibility of the bank. But when we as customers are giving access to our account, are giving information, are sending money to the love of our life, it just seems difficult that that should be a place where banks are paying or financial firms are reimbursing customers. Because what you then have is if the call or the access is you've won the Jamaican lottery for $3 million, you only have to send us $50,000. I personally would think you'd be crazy not to take a chance on sending $50,000 if the law is you'll be fully reimbursed if the Jamaican lottery was a scam. Everybody would send the 50 to get 3 million. And it's not true. But if I get reimbursed, why wouldn't I send that $50,000 out
Sure.
and take the chance?
Yeah.
So we have to come up with a system. Others may think there should be a way the banks reimburse. We need to look at that carefully and make sure we aren't creating a moral hazard that simply makes it that the scammers always win. Others over here are the ones that lose, whether it's the bank or victims or whomever.
That makes sense. Everything that you laid out, I totally agree. Because like you said, everyone would be saying, sure, I'll send you $50 because, I know I'm going to get reimbursed. But some of the other scams, I think, where financial institutions and banks, perhaps are maybe not exactly doing what they should be doing. So I agree 100%. So say I click on something or I start talking to someone, and with AI and voice, that's at some level that worries me too. What should I do? What's the first, second, and third thing that I should do if I'm in a situation and I click on something, like I said, or maybe I talk to someone and I'm like, it's a little suspicious.
Yeah, if you have that inner sense, and usually I would tell everybody, trust your gut. But if you have that inner sense, if you're online, literally unplug the computer, unplug the router immediately, call the police and tell them that you suspect you've been involved in a fraud, or at least the start of a fraud. I think that helps there for sure. On the phone, hang up immediately if it's something about your financial institution or one of the big merchants or whomever, supposedly, whether I don't like naming everybody, but if that merchant is supposedly involved in something and you need to get reimbursed or you need to send them money, call the actual number of the merchant. Look on the back of the card. Look on the back of your debit card. That is the phone number you call. You never call the number sent to you through the internet or given to you by the bad person, or I call them bad people. But anyway, by the suspicious call that you got. So that is the immediate remedy. But then reporting. And I know some folks feel law enforcement's not doing anything or there's a dollar size, but you need to get these cases into law enforcement, into the Federal Trade Commission. Online cases go through the FBI and their IC3 website, and I can make sure I get you these notes for show notes afterward. But that's what we want to do. Stop immediately and then contact and alert people, because not only hopefully you're saving yourself, but you may save the next person from this same situation.
Yeah, I love that too, because I do think that's important. You may save the next person.
Exactly.
And I love that you said that. Without divulging anything confidential, do you have a short story you could tell us about an individual or a company that you've helped?
Yeah, the one, and I may have told it before, so I apologize, but we did have the woman living in Seattle, I can say that. And somehow this criminal, but had glommed onto her. She was an older woman, and all of a sudden became a uh, helper, moved into her house, started giving her to withdraw money from her account, buying her a car, and at some point, seeing the withdrawals, it was our firm made a call to one of her sons saying, "We think something's wrong here. We're reaching out. You need to check in on your mom." That son flew out, found that it was worse than we thought. And the police eventually arrested this woman. They could not say that they didn't think this would go even further to something tragic happening. And were able to stop that. This woman was prosecuted. But what sticks with me is the message there were two sons. And the sons were saying they had tried to give their mom her independence and what have you. They'd visit, but they weren't there. They lived out of state. But they were thankful that the firm took the time, took the effort to reach out. And there's some folks who say, "How can you do that? That's my money. Why are you calling my son?" But he said, and he's the one that said, "We truly think, but for your stepping in, our mom may not be here."
Well, I love that story because there was some damage, but it's a happy ending. And I love that that institution decided to reach out and that the sons were responsive instead of saying, "Oh, she's probably fine," that they took action. And I mean, that example could have gone so much worse in so many different ways.
Well, that's exactly it. And one thing I didn't talk about earlier, we may get to it. We're starting to see a trend where the bad guys are saying, "We will come to your house to pick up the money." They
Mm,
don't want things wired again because traceable, what have you. So you
right.
go to the bank, you ask for an enormous amount of cash, and couriers supposedly are coming to your house to take money from you. That is just a recipe for disaster. Who's to say it's one and done? They now
Mhm,
know where you live. They're, they can come back on any number of pretexts
mhm,
to say we need more money.
mhm. So I'm glad that you brought that up, and I hadn't thought about that. So, Ron, have you heard that we're seeing more of that? Almost this brazen, right? People showing up to someone's home?
Yeah, that's increasingly a part of the scam. A part of the scam is we want the money. Don't FedEx it. Don't send it through U.S. Postal Service. Don't wire it. Literally take it to your house in an official, usually a couple of them, official government courier will
Mhm,
be there to take the money and put it in your own personal
mhm,
federal money locker, and you'll get all the money back later. The
mhm.
scams weave all kinds of things in.
Right. I mean, the interesting thing is many people, I shouldn't say many, some people are using, cameras in their doorbells and whatnot around their house perimeter. And so there's video available. However, and this is probably like, why is she asking me this question? How likely is it that if someone loses a significant amount of money that it's going to be retrieved ever?
Uh, the odds are very low, but they're better if you immediately kindly contact the FBI. But the odds are very low. And remember, if you're following the trends, many of these are overseas organized crime syndicate.
Right.
The couriers here may simply be what they call money mules, relatively, nobody's fully innocent, but relatively innocent folks here thinking they're doing something illegal work that's all permitted. Or
Right.
sometimes, and we had a tragic incident in Ohio, they're actually using Uber or Lyft drivers to go pick up a package, and then
Okay.
that person, so the Lyft driver clearly is not in it, but the gentleman in Ohio shot the, the driver, thinking she was part of the scam after he
Hmm.
thought, these are bad guys, I'm going to take care of this myself.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's truly tragic. So, as we kind of wind down our conversation today, what are some key takeaways for our audience that you want them to be able to really understand and perhaps will help them avoid such scams that we've discussed today?
Yeah, number one is I like, and I realize some of us don't have the full family, but there should be family financial conversations. I think the finances have been more of a taboo subject than the birds and the bees when we were teenagers. So we need the families to sit down and talk about these things, coming up with a family password. Because you're right, the AI may make it sound like your granddaughter, but you ask, what is the password if we're in one of the grandparent scam situations? And the other thing I want families to do when they have these conversations is talk about the various devices that help you assist your aging relatives. You can get view only access to the bank account. It's not for the son or daughter to make any transaction, but they're able to see your transaction. We think that's important. Getting duplicate statements, we think that's important. The other thing is naming a trusted contact. I mentioned the Seattle situation. They were able to call the son. Give your name, two names, that if you, financial institution, see something suspicious with my mom, reach out to me. I will call her and we'll discuss it. Many times we see that being very effective. The concept of having the full family aware of this, we think makes a big difference. The other one is think about some of the services out there. You may have to pay, maybe your financial institution will pay or discount it, but there are services that give alerts to family members. Maybe you agree on anything under 1,000, no problem, but $1,000 or more, there's a phone call, there's an alert, there's a text to that trusted person, son, daughter, saying your mom is about to send $10,000. You should know, and maybe you should have a conversation. So we think things like that can help you personally. And then I would go to end with what I call the three don'ts. Don't ever click on anything sent to you over the internet from strangers, period, in the store. Or even if it looks familiar as your bank, I would like you to get with your teenage or younger kids, grandkids, to learn how you can tell if the supposed financial institution email is truly from the financial institution. If you can hover over that uh, email address, you will see something that says American Express is actually Billy 235 in a foreign country or whatever it might be. So we need you to not click, period, but if you can learn some of those points. The other is don't answer the phone. Don't answer the phone unless it is from a number you actually know. Don't ever answer the phone. If it's important, it'll go to voicemail. I know a number of folks say, well, it might be my doctor's appointment or whatever. The doctor's appointment will say, please call Dr. Jones. And they'll HIPAA and all kinds of things. They don't want to give too much information. But you can let everything go to voicemail. And then the final one, and I get in trouble for saying it, but I say it anyway. Don't lie about financial withdrawals to your family, to your financial professional, or any other person that's there to help you. You cannot, at the request of a third party, even if they say they're the government, you cannot go into the bank and say, this withdrawal is to help my daughter make a down payment on an expensive home in California. When that's a lie. Don't do that. You have to do, if you do those three don'ts, we'll make a big dent. Again, not eliminating, but we'll make a big dent in this fight, and we'll at least make sure you're not the one being victimized. I have to work on the others, so let's start with you. And if you take care of yourself, we can then focus our attention on the others who need a little more assistance.
Mm. It's really great advice, Ron. So we appreciate that. If an individual or a company or organization wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Yeah, the best way would be through my LinkedIn address, which I can't say it off the top of my head. But LinkedIn, I'm there, Ron Long or Ronald Long, one of those two. But you should find me there, and I'd love to be in touch with anyone, firms, individuals, to talk through a lot of these issues.
Yeah, we'll put your LinkedIn link in the show notes. That will be a good link to click on. So we will put that in the show notes for anyone that wants to get in touch with you. But before we close our episode, this is a great discussion. So good to have you back. I feel like I've learned new things from our last conversation. And the question we like to ask our guests at the end, especially you, because you've had an amazing career. You could wake up every day and do lots of different things. But why do you still wake up and do what you do today, Ron?
Yeah, this is a passion. I think I told folks before, my mom died at 98, and she lived a nice, healthy, long life. Towards the end, she was one of those people who could be victimized. She actually didn't fall for any big scam, but I could see that there. And this gives me a chance to say, I'm leaving something for others. I'll be gone eventually. All of us will go at some point. But the
Right.
idea that there are things that we take away that may make us age safer, healthier, financially sound is just something that floats my boat every day. So I like doing it. Won't do it forever, but we'll be doing it very hard and working to make that dream come true of 100% eradication of elder financial abuse.
Well, I love that goal. And again, I love your growth mindset. And I think, your attitude about wanting others to have that legacy to leave behind and not lose it to a scam. So thank you for joining me again today. It's great to catch up with you. And for our listeners, thank you for listening. Please like us, follow us, tell your friends, your family about us. And we look forward to being with you again on another episode of the Prime Life Podcast. Thank you so much and have a great day.